We can preach. We can tell them the answer for their life's questions and problems. People are full of questions, full of confusion. And we have the answers. And the preaching, Christian preaching, is about that. Giving those things, the prescription out. The gospel is the prescription of God for salvation.
Give thanks to the Lord, our God and King. His love endures forever. For He is good, He is above all things. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise. With a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, His love endures forever. For the life that's been reborn, His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever and ever. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever and ever. Forever. From the rising to the setting sun, His love endures forever. And by the grace of God, we will carry on. Everybody. His love endures forever. Sing praise, sing praise, sing praise, sing praise. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever and ever. Forever God is faithful. Forever God is strong. Forever God is with us. Forever and ever. Forever.
Paul doesn't want saints to drag the Lord's name out there and dirty it all around the town, you know. Paul wants Christian people to be people who pay their bills in time, their dues in time, and so on. I'm sure that he's got something of that in his mind. Don't be like the world. If the man who has borrowed you, lent you the money has to come and knock on your door and talk about you, you know, there's a Christian staying here. Where is he gone? They say he's gone to the fasting meeting. But he's not paying the bill, you know. He's not paying the due, but he's interested in fasting meeting. He's gone to the fasting and prayer, you know. And so that guy comes and stands at your door, and there's a big cross on your door. He says, my God, how can I knock on the cross? You know. So here is God's name dragged out. He says, and he finds a few Christians like that in town. Then he goes around talking, saying, all these Christians are like that. I have so many Christian customers. Half of them don't pay their bills. You have to knock on their door all the time. They're out there in somewhere fasting and praying. They've gone to all-night prayer, all-day prayer and all this, but they're not paying the... See, the Lord's name is dragged out in the world and put to shame. I'm sure Paul has something like that in mind. But also, not only the Lord's name is ruined, Our relationships are ruined. A lot of quarrels and a lot of misunderstandings, a lot of animosity between people is created because of this borrowing business, especially when someone borrows and does not pay back in time and pay back responsibly. Amen? Have you seen people that borrow and say, I totally forgot? How can you forget, man? How can you forget any amount of money that you borrow and say, I'm totally forgot, I'm sorry, totally forgot, Don't forget, pay it, Paul says. Oh, no man anything except to love. I'm sure he has that in mind. But that is only some minor considerations. That's only the minor point, really. I mean, that's important. God's name should not be dragged out and ruined. And your relationships must not be ruined, and quarrel must not happen because of this borrowing business. All that is his concern, really, and that is surely there as a factor. But something more is there, I believe. It means something more. Certainly something more. And what is this? What does it really mean? What is he trying to get at? Now, for that we have to go to chapter 1, because that is where this whole idea of owing something begins. See, Paul is someone that's got something in his mind and powerfully expresses it. Go to chapter 1 and let me read to you verse 14. He's talking about how he would like to come to Rome and preach the gospel. He's been desiring to do so. Verse 13 says that he attempted to do so, but he failed because there have been some hindrances that stopped him from coming there to Rome. So he's not made the trip. He regrets it. He really wants to come. And then he says, puts it like that. He says, I'm a debtor, using the word debtor. He says, I feel like I owe, he says. I'm a debtor. I'm trying to explain the meaning of Romans 13:8, but let's look at this. I'm a debtor both to Greeks and to barbarians, both to wise and to unwise. So much as is in me, I'm ready to preach the gospel to you who are in Rome also. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Christ, for it is the power of God to salvation for everyone who believes, for the Jew first and also for the Greek. So, what is he saying here? He says, I feel like I'm a debtor. Now, what do you think it means? Some people say, well, it means that he has gained a lot from the Greeks and the Greek philosophy and the Greek poets, and even in Athens he quotes a Greek poet. So he has learned a lot from Greek philosophy, Greek poets, and Greek art and culture and all of that. So he feels thankful toward them. So he wants to pay back his dues. He wants to do something good for them because he has gained so much. Similarly, with Rome and their system of governance and all of that, he has been blessed through that. And he's a Roman citizen, and he's enjoyed so much benefits. So he feels like he's a debtor. He wants to pay. People give all kinds of strange interpretations for this, like this, But he's not saying that, really. What is he really saying? What he's really saying is this. Something very wonderful what he's saying. He's saying, as a Christian, I feel I've got something that other people need. I've got something very precious that if it's given to other people, their lives will be changed. And I feel that I'm in debt toward them because I have it and I can easily give it. I don't lose anything by giving it. I will only get joy by giving it. I should give it. I see them in their need. When they need it and I've got it, that makes me feel like I'm a debtor. I have no right to deny them this thing. They can make a demand on me. I have no right to keep it myself. I need to go and give it to them. He says, that is why I feel like I'm a debtor. He says, I would like to come and preach in Rome also, because I feel like I owe a debt, because I have this wonderful gospel, and I need to come and preach the gospel there among you. This will really help Rome, the main city of the Roman Empire at that time. Now let me give it through an illustration also, seems that more than 100 years ago, someone in Egypt found a papyri, which had some information there concerning the word power. We read here in verse 16, I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is the power of God unto salvation. So in that papyri, there was information, it seems, concerning the word power. That the word power used here was used in those days also for what we call prescription these days. This word was used for what we call prescription, the doctor's prescription these days. So it will read something like this: I'm not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ, for it is God's prescription for those who want to be saved. That's how it will read, So what he's basically saying is this. He says, I feel like I'm a man that had a terrible sickness at one time. And I suffered under that sickness so much. Pain, suffering. It went on and on for many years. I couldn't do anything about it. It literally crippled me. And I went everywhere, to every doctor, every consultant, every hospital, received all kinds of treatment. Nobody was able to fix this problem for me. I was agonizing over it. Then finally, someone told me that there is a doctor somewhere. There is someone that treats these kinds of cases, and it's had success with this, that I must approach that person. So I approached that person, and that person examined me thoroughly and wrote a prescription and gave it to me. And I went and took those medicines according to how it must be taken, according to the prescription. And after a while, I was completely well. Now, I go down the road, and I see another man walking right next to me. He seems like he's got the same problem I used to have. I could look at him and just tell by the pain and the way he walks and by the way he's suffering through it. I can tell that it's the exact same condition that I had. So I look at him, I feel sorry for him because I know exactly what it is to be like that, because I was like that for many years. And I know also that this man must have not known about this prescription that is available, this way out that is available, this medicine that is available, this cure that's available. He obviously does not know because he's still suffering. Well, I'm all right now. So I know that he's sick with the same sickness. I know that he doesn't know the prescription that can cure him. And I know also that I have the prescription that was written for me in my pocket. How easy it is for me to reach into my pocket, take the prescription out, and go to the man and just engage in a talk with that man and give this man this prescription and tell him, I was like that, I was suffering so many years, I know what your problem is, I see what you're going through, I feel sorry for you, I want you to go take this prescription and you will be all right just like me. If I don't do that, then I would be wrong. If I just kept on going and did not care about that man while having the prescription in my pocket and he is just 2 steps away from me for me to reach him, if I don't tell him that, then it will be terrible. When I'm walking 2 steps away from me, I feel like I'm a debtor to him. I must tell him. I owe him something. This man is suffering so much. I owe him something. I need to give him this. Poor man is going through so much. I need to give him that. That is the sense in which he is talking about this. He's saying, I feel like I'm a debtor, both to the Greeks and to the barbarians, both to the wise and the unwise, people of the whole world, he says. Feel like I'm a debtor. That's why I want to come to Rome. It's not like some preachers that says, I haven't seen Rome. I'd like to come there if you give me a couple of chances to preach somewhere. I can see Rome and Europe and all that and then preach in your church maybe. No, he says, no, I'm not coming as a tourist. I'm coming because I feel like I'm a debtor. I got something that is so valuable, so precious, so amazing. A discovery that I have made. I know what it is to be like that, in that condition, suffering in that condition. I have discovered that. And that poor man is suffering like that. So, I need to come and give it. I feel like a debtor to the world, he says. I look at the people, the nations, the people of all languages and people of all kinds all over the world. I look at the Jews, the barbarians, the Greeks, the wise and the unwise. All kinds of people are there. I'm a debtor to them, he says. I want to go everywhere. That is the fantastic motivation for preaching the gospel. Amen. That should be our motivation. When you want to share the gospel, that is the only motivation that we have. Amen. That is why we try so hard. That's why we put our programs on television. That's why we're constantly preaching. So that we have the prescription. We have the answer. We have this precious thing. And they are suffering so much. And all you got to do is just reach out and give it to them. That's all. That's all. That's all. That's what it's all about. I was in Maharashtra last week. A lot of time we don't even tell where we go. But most of the weeks we're gone, somewhere, preaching. Last week I was in Maharashtra preaching for 3 days. Wonderful, wonderful meeting, open air meeting. Amazing, near Chandrapur. Amazing meeting. So many people came and were blessed. In the mornings we had teaching sessions and so on. Evening also, we taught on a lot of things. And it was an amazing meeting. And so many people we were able to reach. And this week I've been here, but this coming week, Wednesday, I'm leaving to go to, what is that place? Uttar Pradesh. Uttar Pradesh, near Varanasi, Ahmedabad is the place we're going for a few days of meetings. Why do we go? Sometimes my head is spinning. I don't even know where I am, When I get up, which town I am in, where I am in, where I have to go, what I have to do. Because going constantly, just it seems like your time is spent on just traveling and going up and down, But you feel sometimes very tired and you feel like you're worn out. But there is an urge to go. Why there is an urge to go? I feel just like Paul, and every Christian should feel just like Paul, that we are a debtor to the whole world, to every kind of people there is. We are debtors. We have something precious. We have what they need. We can preach. We can tell them the answer for their life's questions and problems. People are full of questions, full of confusion. And we have the answers. And the preaching, Christian preaching, is about that, giving those things, the prescription out. The gospel is the prescription of God for salvation. Amen? All right, so that's the sense in which in Romans 13:8 he's talking about it. He says, do not owe anything except to, Romans 13. Do not owe no one anything except to love one another. So what does it mean? It means that in the world you may owe this and that to everybody, but all those debts you paid off. 36 months, 60 months. Some of them are 999 months, You suffer through them and pay them off, right? Whatever it is. And you can't wait to pay them off. If you're like me, you just can't wait to pay them off and get them off your back and be done with it, Don't want to see it again, I wish, soon we'll never borrow, I try not to borrow most of the time. And the best not to borrow. But in case you have to borrow, I'll borrow, But then you're busy paying it. And you pay it off. Paying off is there's a joy in paying off. And you're free from debt. But love is one debt you never pay off. You will perpetually owing this debt. All the way to the end of your life, throughout all eternity, you'll owe this debt. You will never, ever pay it off. Some people say, well, so far I loved. Didn't I show enough love? That's enough, I think. From tomorrow you get something else. No, you loved yesterday, you love tomorrow. You love today, you love morning in the morning, love in the afternoon, love at night. Love again in the morning, love when it's difficult, love in hard places, love in difficult times. Love, love, love. This debt never seems to be, the due is always due. Every which way you turn, it's due. To this person it's due, to that person it's due, to the other person it's due. When you go home it's due, when you go out it's due. It's due. This is one payment that you must be glad about. You must be happy to pay. Every which way you turn, they're saying, give me the due. You owe it to me. We owe it. Owe no man anything except to love one another. In other words, he's saying, all other debts you paid off as quick as possible. Get rid of it. And paid honorably, paid in good time, paid promptly. But this debt, you cannot pay it off. It's not a debt you pay off. It's a debt that you keep on owing. And it's a wonderful, good debt, and you keep showing love all the time. That's what it means. So, as Christians, every Christian ought to feel like a debtor. That I owe it. I must love. God has saved me and made me just like Him. He has redeemed me, delivered me, put His Spirit within me, poured His love into me. Why? So that I can keep paying or keep giving this love. By giving, I never lose anything. As I give, there is more and more of it, always. I will always owe, and you will always owe. This is a debt that never gets paid, and it's a good debt. Owe no one anything except to love one another. And then he says, for he who loves another has fulfilled the law. Now, after that, verse 9 and 10 is basically a development of that statement. This is a very heavy statement, if you just think of it. He says, he who loves another has fulfilled the law. In other words, he's saying something unbelievable. If you just love another person, if you just love your neighbor, you have fulfilled all the law. The 10 commandments, whatever other commandments also, he says, if it's there. And the Old Testament has plenty of them. Whatever other commandments you have, the 10 commandments and all other commandments can be fulfilled in one shot by loving one another, he says. That's a heavy statement. How can that be possible? How can you just love one another and then fulfill all of the law? That looks like fancy thing. This is something unbelievable. How can you do that? And then he says, for the commandments, he's now explaining, for the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not bear false witness, you shall not covet. And if there is any other commandment, see there? You know of any other commandment? Are all summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does not do any harm to a neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfillment of the law. He explains why that statement is true. And look at his explanation. It's a very heavy explanation. He picks 5 of the 10 commandments, the last 5, and literally quotes them here. His understanding is no different from Jesus' understanding. I told you Jesus separated the commandments into 2 sections, divided into 2. The first 4, loving God. The next 6, loving others. Now, Paul has the same understanding. See, they all learned it from Jesus. They got the right interpretation. Paul was a Pharisee. He was among the gang that always misunderstood the commandments. That was the problem with the Pharisees. They never understood the purpose, the function of the commandments at all. And Jesus had to teach it in the Sermon on the Mount. In the Sermon on the Mount, chapter 5, verse 17, all the way to the end, he picks one commandment after the other as examples and gives interpretations. He gives the false interpretation and then gives the correct interpretation. He says, you've heard it said that you shall not murder. But I say unto you, if a man is angry with his brother and calls him a fool, he has already committed a murder. He says, you have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say unto you, if a man looks at a woman with a lustful eye, he has already committed adultery. This is Jesus' interpretation. What was the Pharisees' interpretation? The Pharisees' interpretation was, the commandment says you shall not murder. Have you done any murder? The guy says, no. And they say, you're clear. You're a holy man. You're clear. Jesus says, no. Is there anger in your heart? Is that Cain's spirit in your heart, that murderous spirit? You have not murdered anyone, but do you want to murder someone? Would you like to see someone killed? Do you hate someone? Do you abhor someone? That is the thing from which murder comes later on. Therefore, that is like murder. He says, the thing is this: Jesus is giving the right interpretation of the law. Pharisees always misunderstood it. The same thing with committing adultery. The Pharisees approached it like this: have you done it? The guy says, no, I have certainly not done it. Came near to doing it, but didn't do it. So the Pharisee says, thank God you didn't do it. So you're okay. But Jesus says, no, if you looked at a woman with a lustful eye, you already committed adultery. Now this may seem very hard for some people, but this is the correct interpretation of the law.
Let's clap our hands. Remind ourselves about who we are. I know who I am. I know who I am. I know who I am. I am yours. I am yours. I know who I am. Know who I am. Know who I am. I am yours. I am yours. You are mine. Jesus, you are mine. You are mine. Jesus, you are mine. I was running and you found me. I was blind and you gave me sight. You put a song of praise in me. Oh, I was broken and you healed me. I was dying and you gave me life. Lord, you are my identity.